open the meeting for the Hudson IDA. Can we get a attendance call
And Heather Campbell here, Mal Johnson,
here?
Sheriff Luca, absent. Brandon Martin,
Here.
Dominic Moranti.
Here.
Charles Millard,
Here.
Margaret Morris. Here. You have a form.
Okay. Can we get a motion in a second to approve the minutes from December 3rd, 2025?
I make motion.
Second,
I'll second.
all in favor? All right, can we get a motion in a second to approve the public hearing record for Casada Hudson Mansion Elks Club?
I'll make that motion.
All in favor?
Yeah.
We have a finance committee report.
Like we have to have the finance meeting, no?
Yes.
Sorry, that's one of,
Yeah, I get a motion in a second to temporarily adjourn this meeting to go into the finance committee meeting.
no,
move.
All in favor?
right, okay. Can I have a motion to accept the September 3rd minutes of the last finance? Motion. Dominic. We need a second.
Yeah, that's what I just asked about. I can't remember. Yes. I went to committee.
All in favor?
I,
Okay. You can see that there is, finances through December 1st, the income statement and the balance sheet. Nothing much of note. We distributed $357,000 of pilot distributions to the three taxing jurisdictions, those being the city, the county, and the Hudson School District. The other significant change is the balance sheet is that, just make sure I'm saying the right thing before I say it. That we have removed the fixed assets, which was the land up on behind North Second Street, which was deeded over to Columbia Land Conservancy. So that is no longer on our balance sheet being carried. We have about $35,000 in escrow funds based on the various projects. So if anybody has any questions on either of those issues, please let me know.
And in calculating the net cash available balance unrestricted, when you subtract out the 35,000 in escrow, is that off the 780? Total liability and equity?
We're missing a page. That's a problem. Yeah, we only have the liability side of the balance sheet. That's what I was looking for. Yeah. But we can get that distributed to the board members.
I have a general question, which
Sure.
I've raised with Mike. So the IDA, when we have codes on a project, et cetera, that's a thing. How does that benefit the city? And I understand that there are ways in which the IDA can disperse those funds, but I think we need to be thinking about how that money flows back into projects for the city to benefit the residents of Hudson, because it does not appear to me that that is happening.
Yeah, nothing has been done really with the funds except to collect them.
Right.
I think that question is really more appropriately targeted to Chris Shaw.
Exactly.
Because, you know, there are legal constraints as to what we can and cannot do with the funds.
Understood.
And, you know, personally, I think until this point, we didn't have enough
Right.
to worry about.
Right.
But I think we are at the point, especially with Pleasant Crescent, that we should be looking at that. So,
Right. I just wanted to raise.
no, I think that's next.
And that was really where my point was. I believe we have about 700,000 plus
Right.
of
That's about right.
free
Right.
cash, and with the $140,000 Crescent fee, you're gonna have north of $800,000.
Yep.
Remember 10 years ago, we had $10,000.
Yeah.
But and I don't think it made sense when we had a couple $100,000 to do anything that would be other than trickling out money. But Chris, could you address some of the opportunities that the IDA would have to enhance the the value of its efforts on behalf of the city?
Well, from a legal,
And or special meeting.
I'm sorry.
I think we did as much of it today.
From a legal perspective, I think that the thing to be aware of is that the IDA can expend funds for its authorized purposes. So it cannot, for example, build City Hall. You know, that's one of the things that was a reform many years ago for IDAs, is that they didn't want IDAs undertaking projects that were essentially just the types of projects that were for city funds. But the city, you know, the IDA can use its funds for anything that is an authorized IDA purpose. So it can undertake a quote unquote project as it's defined in the authorizing law. It, you know, that is essentially economic development purposes. And so for example, if there's a project that the IDA wishes to undertake, it could, you know, some land acquisition, for example, for a particular economic development project, for example, site preparation is a typical type of expense for that sort of thing, infrastructure and that sort of thing. But it would have to be in conjunction with this, you know, a specifically identified project. It can't just be let's buy land and hope that, you know, somebody will develop there someday. You'd want to create a particular plan for a project. You cannot make grants. So that is one thing that's been made clear in some of the ABO rulings. So it would have to be structured correctly. It is possible. Mike previously asked whether there could be a training program, and that is probably doable if it's, you know, again, targeted to economic development efforts that the city is undertaking. You could enter into a service contract, much as you do for the county's contract, to undertake you know, some type of project like that. And obviously there are a lot of different things you could do, but those are some of the general parameters.
One of the things Chris and I also discussed was, you know, could the IDA take funds now that the city's finalizing its comprehensive plan, identify what types of businesses that the city with that would be consistent with that plan in a way that would have the IDA out looking for those types of projects rather than having just people wander in here with whatever project they think they want to undertake going forward. And you know, I think there are also some opportunities that have been discussed but are still in the early stages as to what opportunity there might be for the 1 Hudson Avenue site. And CEDC and Columbia and Greene County are in partnership with $1.5 million environmental study fund that we're moving forward, and there may be an opportunity to look at that site or other sites in the city independent of the IDA that might have development potential, realizing that at least the 1 Hudson Avenue site is the last 12-acre parcel available in the city. So I think there are things to do, but it has to be where we set up a program to do it and implement it.
That was my question. Other than, missing things.
And you have a good you have a good balance to be able to do some very effective things.
Then if there's no other questions on those financials aside from the missing page, if you look at the last page, these are the bills that are currently in hold, looking to be approved for payment. It is the November work of Thirty Thousand Trawl and the last 2 quarters of CEDC's administrative contract. Can I get a motion and a second to approve the bills, please?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Good.
Motion to adjourn.
Well, I think we're gonna ask for public comment first.
Oh, sorry.
First, does the board have any questions or comments?
No.
Does the public have any questions or comments? May I have a motion?
Just a quick question. Would the sewer project, the donation still $66 million be considered economic development that the funds could be used towards? Just throwing it out there.
I don't have an answer to that. I would defer to Chris Shaw, but I would suspect no.
Right. I mean, the type of project that is a city sewer project in general is not going to be a project that the IDA is authorized to undertake. That said, there are nuances, but in general, no.
Thank you.
Anyone comments from the public or questions? Okay, may I now have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Have a motion and a second to continue the board meeting.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Are we voting on the hotel today?
I think the plan was to have a discussion. There are resolutions, for, the seeker negative determination, as well as, a draft resolution for, financial assistance for the, Hudson Mansion project. I don't know that, you have, come to terms as a group on, what benefits, you would be willing to consider, for the project, and we would, I think the idea was to have you make a few preliminary observations and then get a discussion going between you as to how you'd like to proceed.
Can I ask an unrelated question? We have this agenda and then we have a separate page on top of it. I'm assuming it's supposed to replace the first one, but
Yes.
what is the difference between the two?
The asterisk on the, is set up.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. What?
Before
Just what with the blue
the
text
agenda
on
that
it?
was put out a week ago didn't have the asterisk that this was a potential, resolution for a vote.
Okay, thank
We
you.
didn't have the resolution. We didn't have the copies yet. I had been asked earlier just to, provide some information on tourism. There is, it's buried in the, packet that you had, but I see Randall has it right there. It says, what does tourism mean to Columbia County? This is information that was put out by Ann Cooper at the County Tourism Bureau, but it comes out of the Empire State Development, 2024 regional study. And we're, for, tourism purposes, we're in the Mid-Hudson region. We're, as you know, for economic development, and other state agencies, we're in the capital region, except for DOT, where we're in the Mid-Hudson region. Visitor spending, in Columbia County, and they do not break it out for the city of Hudson, was, 253 million. You can see 60 million in lodging, recreation, food and beverage, retail goods and services, transportation, and on vacation properties. One of the things in the report itself, indicates that when you look at Columbia County, in comparison, to the other counties in our region, which are Westchester, Orange, Dutchess, Rockland, Columbia, and Putnam. Columbia County, had, the highest employment by county in the tourism sector at 11%. The next one was, Dutchess at 9, Orange at 8, Westchester and Putnam at 5. So as a proportion of our population, over 10% of our economy is supported, directly by tourism and, indirectly, in a significant, matter. The personal income by county in millions, is, $75 million in Columbia County, and, that's 10% of the total. So I think we all agree that tourism is a key component of the county's economy. And I think the important part of that is to evaluate that in the context of the mission, statement of the IDA, which talks about, supporting the local economy and creating jobs. The second thing that I have, is a large yellow sheet that, I call a hotel analysis. There was some question, that the board had raised. Do we have, too many hotels?
This one?
Yes. And you know, right now, I did exclude bed and breakfast, Airbnbs that advertise as hotels. And, you know, there are only, I think, one or two that you might add the Nest, you might add,
Amelia.
Amelia, but again, they're not on that, these are the properties on the assessment roll that are identified as hotels. Currently, we have 197 rooms. There are 30 rooms that are under construction. Fourth and Warren. And if this project is approved and moves forward, there'd be an additional 40 rooms, bringing the total up to 267. I think, as we've discussed before, and I think this is an update of a report I did a year or two ago at your request. You know, it's not like we have 267 Holiday Inn Express rooms. The rooms that we have looked at, we put in buckets by price. And for the fun of it, rather than hire a consultant, although I guess IDA funds could have been used for that, we went and looked at the second Wednesday in March and the 4th of July to get a sense of what the swing is on the high season and low season. And then we put people in price buckets. As you can see, in the low season, you can get a room at the from Expedia at the St. Charles for 110, and at the Maker for 495, with you know, a $200 a night room, a $225 to $260 room in the second bucket. I guess everything is a perfect bell curve. Moving to 4th of July, the St. Charles right now, if you reserve, jumps up to 169. We looked at this last June, and they were at like 280. So there is a significant jump. And you can also see that you know, just about everyone jumped up, but interestingly enough, they, with one or two exceptions, they stay in the same buckets.
Do we have any idea what the occupancy rates are?
My understanding is they're 50 to 60%, depending on the property. And that's what I did at the bottom. You know, I took the high and the low, based on a 50% occupancy and the number of rooms, and multiplied out, you know, the high and the low bed tax, and then I averaged it. That there should be $10 to $11 million in bed tax based on a 50% occupancy across the board on these hotels. But I discount for Heather's purposes 20% and say 8, right? Just because again, this is a snapshot. It's not, you know, scientific study. Any questions? Next, there are two reports. One is a 2-page report that says total cost benefit analysis at the top. Digital landscape. Yep. As you know, about 10 days ago, the developers sent a revised proposal to us, attempting to address the concerns that were raised by the board and by the participants in the public hearing. They modified their proposal to from a 20-year proposal to a 10-year proposal, and they modified the percentage rates in a way to partially address the issue of cliffs in terms of jumps in total tax payments in any particular year during the course of the schedule, but also at the changeover from year 10 to 11 when the pilot ends. The center column is their summary of the economic value of their new proposal. And Kat, did someone get Spencer a copy? Um. There's also a sheet here that will show you how they got to that number, but this is a summary of those numbers.
Which sheet tells us how we got there. This one?
Yes,
Okay.
there's a sheet. That shows, there's two sheets, one that shows no project with IDA benefits and that's,
I don't see the no project.
no, I think it's on my screen. Could you print off 10 copies, please? Margaret and I were just looking at it. But we can come back to that, but you will be sure that they will match up to the numbers in the summary. So the current request for a tax exemption under the developer's proposal is $906,000. The mortgage tax exemption and the sales tax exemption stays the same. I was asked to compare those to both the Hudson IDA hotel model and a possible mid-range alternative. You can see that under those three scenarios, there are total financial assistance of $2.5 million, $2.9 million, and $2.7 million. If you go back and look at the 20-year schedule that we were looking at previously, the developer's request for exemption was $4.3 million. So they have significantly reduced their model based on their understanding of your comments. On the financial benefit side, there's the IDA fee. The pilot revenue that will be received under each of these models. The sales tax on food and beverage and hotel sales at 8%. And the lodging tax that only the city will receive, but this is a summary of the total cost benefit analysis.
And just to be clear, those financial benefits are over the course of 10 years.
That's right. And these are present value numbers so that they're comparable in evaluating them. As you can see, there is the at least one-to-one benefit. The state really requires us to ensure that the project provides more than is given. Those benefit ratios are 1.37 for the Hudson Mansion proposal, 1.97 for the hotel model, and 1.64 in between. We then went ahead and go to page 2. We could just hold those, Steve, for a moment. Go to page 2. I broke it out for city, county, and school district. As you know, the city receives 30% of the taxes. The school district is approximately 51%, and the county is 19%. So when you're looking at the city, and you go back and you look at the fact that about $470,000, if you look at the Hudson hotel model, that they're asking for, and incentives for if you go back to the previous page, the 455 is the value of the exemption. And if you go back and allocate the percentages, 30% of that is $143,000. For the city's share of the exemption that's being asked for is $284. And under the hotel model, it's $143. The percentage of the mortgage tax exemption, it's a 1.25% mortgage tax exemption. 25% goes to the state, 25% to the 50% to the state, 25% to the county, and 50%. I'm doing it wrong, but the city gets $60,000, two payments of $60,000 for 120. And the sales tax exemption is 1.7, but as you know, the state gets 50% and the county gets 50%. The county takes 30% of its 50% and allocates that to the towns and villages, and the city gets approximately 13.5%. So the city would be giving up the number on line 3. So what it's costing the city in terms of exemptions under the request from the developer, 518, under the hotel model, 377, and under a mid model, 448. But what is the city receiving? The city gets the full amount of the bed tax, lodging tax, and it gets its proportionate share using those same formulas for the tax revenue and for the sales tax. And it gets the IDA fee. This IDA is one of the few in the state where it's not composed of business and community leaders appointed by the chief elected official, ratified by whatever legislative entity exists. This is an IDA, as you know, that includes the mayor, the elected council members who serve in leadership roles as majority and minority leader, the elected city treasurer, the appointed assessor, the appointed planning board chair or their representative, and our citizen. This is an IDA that truly has an ability to direct funding to city projects that are eligible or that benefit the public benefit by your leadership in the city, where with a IDA where there were independent community leaders, they don't have the insight or foresight into what those funds should be spent on. So, you know, when you look at this, there's a 5.5 to 1 benefit from the developer's proposal, 6.6 from the mid-range proposal, and 8.4 from the hotel model. I'm gonna skip the county, but I do want to go to the school district because I know the school district is an important part of the city's fabric. The developer proposed the exemption, the city has, the school district pays 50% of what the value of that exemption is. So if the exemption is $900,000, the school district's covering $445,000 of that. What they would get under the pilot, under the developer's proposal, 50% would be $323,000. The result being that their net benefit is costing the school district $124,000. But the mid-course alternative or the hotel model puts that number into a 1-to-1 ratio. And so I just provide that for background. Steve, if we could have those now, please.
Well, given the number of spreadsheets that you had open on your screen.
Okay.
Look, first there, man, I got everything with the right one.
Yep, you did.
All right,
I at least know what I did the 5 minutes before I came in here.
I ran 10, I've got to
Okay.
go get some more.
No, okay,
What do you like that?
Lisa, who do we buy I know we get our paper from P.
On
Mason,
sale.
but can we find out who they get it from so we can buy some stock?
We'll put WB Mason.
This is how we start the analysis in terms of coming up with the aggregate numbers before we split them out by the percentage that each of the municipalities are entitled to or are paying. So this is a $46 million project. If you start in the upper left-hand corner, a $24 million mortgage, estimated cost of goods subject to sales tax, 21.8. I give you the city, county, and school tax rates as of today. The model includes increasing the tax rate at 2% and increasing the assessed value at 2%. The assessed value is based on the discounted cash flow provided by the developer in their pro forma. We said this at the county IDA meeting at 12.5%. It comes out to $200,000 a room. As a comparison, the assessment on the Pocketbook Factory is a little more than half of that. But then this hotel is spending considerably more to develop. Right now, the project is assessed at $1.6 million. And it generates $40,000 a year. And these numbers, the tax rate was projected out 2% for 3 years. The assessment in this case was not. But in this case, the present value of the 10 years with no project, just that building sitting there paying taxes, is $439,000. Project using the assessed value for the completed project would result in $1,560,000. The developer's request comes up to $654,000. The mid-range alternative, fortunately, didn't make the page, but it's $878,000 if we flip over, and the hotel model is $1,105,000. Now, these are the numbers that we use in the second sheet, which is what the summary was a reflection of.
I have a question. The no project. Box A,
Yes,
taxes with no project of 492. Is that total?
yes,
So what portion, how much of that would be city?
30%. And that, if you go back to the summary
I was
sheet,
trying to find, yeah.
you go back to the summary sheet on the city,
Well,
I didn't have that on there. That was not there.
Yeah.
Right.
But the,
So the comparison is, it'll be about 130,000. Yeah. It's not, it's much less.
no,
Yeah, about right, yeah. On the second sheet, is, how we break it all out so that you can see the mathematical calculations that ended up in the summary sheet. But, the print gets smaller and, and this is a model that Jessica Gabriel and I, developed, over time. So, my final summary for then you to have discussion. And I think you do need to be parochial and look at the city's perspective on this. Everyone else is going to be at least 1-to-1, if not more. But the total cost to the city over 10 years, in connection with the pilot sales tax, mortgage recording tax, using the hotel model, is $377,000. And I have a copy of this in your packet. You can see how it's broken out. The 10-year benefit, using a 50% occupancy rate, would result in $3,031,000, resulting in a net benefit to the city of $2,654,000. The real property tax, based on current assessment rates, escalated at 2% annually with a 10% net present value. The net present value of the pilot payments using the hotel model is $1,000,001, which is just over 2.5 times what you're receiving now. If the IDA does not approve this project, the developer could drop the project, resulting in no increased real property sales or lodging tax revenues unless a new development project comes forward. In addition, if a new project is proposed, it may not be a hotel, and the city would lose the lodging tax opportunity completely. If the developer moves forward without the IDA benefit, which we understand is unlikely, the city would not incur the $377,000 in exemption, as it would receive its proportionate share of the full real property tax. It would forego the IDA fee entirely, which is paid up front at the closing. And the result of what the city would receive under a full tax full taxes with no exemption would result in a $97,000 loss to the city by not approving. I know that, it's your responsibility as members of the IDA to, bring your independent judgment to this. You've had public hearings, you've heard from the developers. And I tried to lay this out in factual matter, and I would conclude my remarks and take any questions, Mr. Chairman, if anyone has them.
So my observation in terms of the city's benefit is that a very substantial portion of that is the 468,000 IDA fee. And absent some kind of understanding of how that in reality benefits the city, I'm not convinced that this is benefiting the city. It's benefiting the IDA, certainly. But so far, as you say, in our previous meeting, finance meeting, until recently, we haven't really, the IDA has not resources, but I'm not seeing any of that flowing into projects that benefit the residents of this.
And that's why I pointed out that this IDA is so different than others, because you are the leadership of the city. And you're not a business leader who lives in Claverick or Hillsdale. That would be, you don't have to be, and so I think that the opportunity to do that falls within the purview of this board at a greater degree than others. I think the other issue is the greatest benefit to this project is really the bed tax.
Right.
It's $1.9 million.
Right.
And without any incentive for the project, I can't speak for the developer, but in a written communication, they said that if there wasn't without incentives, they can't do the project. And Jerry Gallo is here representing the developer, and I don't want to speak for you.
And the other thing about if we don't approve incentives, then the developer will not do this, and therefore we have this loss. That has an assumption that no other developer will come in and do anything with the property. And I don't think that that's necessarily a valid assumption.
The only issue there is that if it's not a hotel, you're not going to get the bed tax.
Correct.
And if it's not a hotel that's at the high end, you won't get as much bed tax.
This is correct. And then the other question you have to ask yourself as a community is a high-end hotel, what we really need. And when you look at the number of hotels that we are, in terms of us as a community and the fabric of our community, is this what we, great if somebody wants to build a high-end hotel and we get lodging taxes, and that's a good investment for them, and they're getting a return on investment, terrific. But do we want to be promoting that? I just asked the question. But to me, the 468, the substantial chunk that is going to the IDA rather than directly to the city, or in projects or whatever that will actually benefit the residents, that to me is the problem.
What was the employment ratio in terms of new employment, full-time employment, things like that for the project?
It's construction of 150 plus people and 20 full-time equivalents. Obviously in this business, you're going to have 50% of your workers full-time, and the others are going to be based on volume of food sales and restaurant sales.
Did we do any preference in terms of, the kind of construction being, local?
They did indicate, obviously, it's very difficult. There's no one.
Yeah, right.
There's some specialty contractors in the county that might be able to, I think they had 10%. For construction, they had 25% for hiring workers at the, facility. And for, buying goods and services, but. Again, I do think that, that's comparable to what we saw.
Right.
With the others.
Right.
And, the hiring, they have committed that they would, have local job fairs and, community-based, engagement, similar to the requirements of the previous two hotels.
In terms of what Margaret was saying, in terms of the IDA getting the benefits, I think that what Heather was also saying is, I think we need to figure out where the city can benefit in terms of those projects. I think, it's gonna be almost $900,000 in that kitty. Somewhere along the line, we have to figure out, identify what we can utilize that to benefit the city, right? I think it's been sitting there. I think that's one of the issues, that we haven't identified the projects. I think that probably a workshop, moving forward, to have Chris come and actually do what projects we can invest in, so we can seek those projects out, to utilize that, money to benefit the city. I do, understand that the lodging tax, right, that's total benefit to the city that we're not getting now. So, in terms of whether the project is, now nothing, right? We're not, just sitting there doing nothing. It's very, unsettling when you deal with things like this and you don't know the future, because, but again, that becomes the gamble. Like you said, we don't know if we turn it down, we don't know what comes in next.
And we discussed this at the previous meeting, that the building is empty. It had, it went from an Elks Club to an antique fair or something business.
Yeah, right.
Then it went, to someone who sold it to Eleanor for $1. I don't know what that arrangement was, but, it sat there at least for 10 years or 8 years that I've been here, where it may have been used for a cocktail party or a farmer's market or something.
Yeah, right.
Not the highest and best use. It's deteriorating, I understand, in terms of, but obviously the people who own it, as an empty building are gonna have to maintain it, whether, it's, moves forward as a hotel or not. I think the real question, and we talked about the risk of any IDA approval, is what project might come down the road after it that could have been better for the, community. I think that one thing to take into account here is, many people have looked at this project. This is this group bought the building to move forward. Any new project could be at least 2 or 3 years further down the line in completion than a project that is at the table now. And again, it might not generate a bed tax, or it might not generate a bed tax this high.
Yeah, look at 620, right? I mean, 620,
Yeah.
right? It's doing nothing. So,
Right.
That gamble.
Got a lot.
it-
It was David Kessler.
Yeah.
Yeah, the old
The
age
Kessler
home.
project.
And this being, a historic building, right? Where, you have it decay even further, 3 more years, would be devastating, right?
Yeah.
So, there's a benefit there, right? In terms of keeping it historic, and keeping it alive.
I also think, talk about highest and best use. What else could that property be developed into? It's not gonna be developed into housing. It's not gonna be developed into some sort of, labor factory type business. Well, what else are you gonna do with a building like that? I mean, I guess you could,
would have-
Silicon Valley could come in and they could make it a tech center in a cool
Private
building.
property has,
It could be a law office where that wasn't ADA compliant.
Because I don't think the structure of it's. I mean, my personal belief, if somebody tried to make that into housing, they would make it into very high-end housing.
yes, there were,
So yes, you could potentially do that,
you could make it into condos.
And there is,
but that doesn't help with the housing affordability issue though.
Any housing helps with housing.
But it doesn't create bed tax.
No, you're correct, it doesn't,
Yeah.
it has nothing to do.
I don't know how much this is a consideration, but there is, the end of, some parking, revenue too, because there's a municipal parking there too. So, that can incur additional fees, for the city as they use that municipal parking, because that's right there, right? So, and there's also in that area there, there is parking which other places don't have. So, that's another thing too, that they do have some parking. Other places don't, for that kind of business.
As I look at this, when you look at the total financial benefit. But let's just go back to say no project versus the project. It seems to me that the city does still benefit in 10 years, right? Or over time, that the city does benefit. And as we were kind of struggling to figure out what the IDA can do, it seems that funds from the IDA can be, let's just go back, just so I just have clarity. Because I was listening to what Chris said, but we can't do we can't do economic development projects as defined by, let me just get to where I want to get to now.
You can make a shovel-ready site for a, future project.
Right, we could do anything that creates job creating development programs, infrastructure that directly supports IDA projects, brownfield, remediation, workforce development training, small business entrepreneur support, and housing that supports employment. But as you said, we do have to, well, the IDA will have to make a kind of a detailed workshop to see what's the best highest use of the money. But overall, as an investment to the city, and you're right, I mean, is that what we want to do? But it does throw off money and secure a property that is currently not doing much to the city, not doing much for the city. That's my thought.
And, I would be remiss if I didn't point out that, certainly 2024, the city's finances were challenging. 2025 looks like they're going to continue to be challenging. I think there are some longer term bright sides, but I would be remiss if I didn't say that increase in lodging tax would be a significant boon to the city.
Yeah, especially when this business is to attract lodging, right? So, their goal is to bring people into the city, right? So that's gonna increase in lodging as long as that becomes. And we're based on about 50-60%. So, if they're at 70%, right, it's gonna increase something. It's all projected, I get that, but that is our benefit, something, our revenue we don't have now.
I also think that, in my time in Columbia County and Hudson, I have seen developers who have come to the table who really don't have, the wherewithal to complete the project they envision. And I think, from the research that we've done, this developer, has proven that this isn't their first hotel. This isn't their first upscale hotel, and they have the team in place that, makes it pretty clear they have the competency to do the stacks of financing necessary to, raise the capital and complete the project. And we have projects in the county that have been proposed, and the developer just hasn't had the financial wherewithal to carry out their vision.
In a final proposal, can we make more definitive criteria on local employment and ways that we get our people here in Hudson more directly included in the project?
We included that in the regulatory agreement, I believe, whatever document Chris put it in for the two other hotels. And at the time when those documents are being if you do move forward, when those documents are being finalized, those things can be negotiated. And I think we have to be careful. We at one point talked about with the Kessler project, you had to live in one recommendation was you had to live in Hudson for 2 years. And if you moved out, the project and some things you can't do.
Yes.
You know, you can't require that type of, it's hard enough to do it for civil servants.
I would say that if we were to look at this, I think that well, if the idea was to look at it, I think that it should be the leanest proposal in terms of what the city's given up.
Yeah, but these aren't hard dollar costs, these are opportunity
No, I
costs,
understand.
and clearly, from what I'm seeing, that the opportunity benefit greatly outweighs the opportunity cost.
I mean, it did listen to the public comments, right, and come back with a better, plan, right, and then what was initially for the 20-year, 4 million to now 10-year, 2 million, right? So,
But I think the plan that you have, I think the IDA plan is obviously the most advantageous to the city.
I mean, I think there's also the question of do we as a board set standards, like consistent standards, and, you know, looking at similar type projects, how do you decide to give project A X amount of benefits and then project Y X plus Y benefits? So I think to Randall's point, when I look at this, I tend to look at our existing hotel model, that's the appropriate one because it's a consistent application of benefits. But, you know,
right,
that's why we're
and
having
the
the discussion,
expectation
so.
of somebody coming in, they would have the model, right? So they know that expectation that the hotel model is for the IDA. There's no ambiguous to it, right?
Yeah, right.
And this model here approximates the last major, like the Poplar Factory.
Well, again, we're not comparing it to the pocketbook factory because what we're doing is we're using the percentage model
Mhm.
that was used for the Kessler property and for the property, but because the project costs are different, the amount of mortgage is different, all of those things are different. It's a model that the numbers were plugged into.
But say the model, this model,
Yes.
does that fit within the parameters of what we're saying is a standardized model that we've sort of
Yeah.
developed over time?
So at this point, you have four choices. One is or five choices. One to not make a motion to approve, which the second choice there is to defeat that. Third choice is third, fourth, and fifth choices are to pick one of the three columns. And it's really up to the board to decide how it would like to proceed. Do you have any observations, Chris, at this point on process?
Process-wise, if the board wishes to move forward, the resolution that was prepared has blanks that will need to be completed for a particular model that the board wishes to move for. So if the board, someone wanted to move approval of a resolution with one of the models, I would like to walk through that and fill in numbers so that the board then can consider the resolution with amendments that outline the particular project that they are, they're going to vote on, if they're going to vote. Does that make sense?
Yes. But at this point, and we do think it's important to move this forward. We're going to have a potentially close to entirely new members of the IDA, and you've had the background and knowledge and experience not only of the previous two hotel deals, but you've had the benefit of engaging in the discussion on this project for several months. So I would encourage you to.
So, what page are we looking at for the resolution?
The resolutions are in the packet.
In the target packet.
In the original packet, the
Yeah.
meeting packet.
So I have one here.
And I will say that if the board would like to identify, if I guess a motion could be put on the table to identify one of the models and prepare and proceed with a resolution amendment to, create the amendment, then that will, I think we're going to have to, however, vote first on the seeker. Um, uh, once you identify the model that you're going to be considering. Because I think that we're going to have to go through the approving resolution and fill in the numbers so that, we can see this is the model that we've identified. I mean, Mike's gone through the numbers, with you, but we need to put those into the resolution.
Also, we do have a representative, in the room and online, from the developer, Jerry Gallo is here, and, do you have any final comments?
I just, wanted to acknowledge, thank you. You addressed most of the points that the reason we came back to you with the revised model is we heard the concerns. The three, as you said, the three main points. We asked for an unprecedented structure. We recognize that doesn't work. We changed the structure to the 10-year. We understood that the framework needed to change, as well as making sure that the city was always getting positive. We went back, looked at the numbers, we understood the concerns about the 2% increases as well as the 2% assessment increase, making sure we're always positive, make sure this project is paying taxes and increases like all the neighbors. And we also adjusted our ask, but still keeping in mind that this is a $46 million project. We do have commercial lending in place, and we tried to stay within the framework of the approvals so that we don't lose that. So our ask is based on that, is to try and keep this thing, get this thing going in the spring of 2026, based on having the commercial lending in place and understanding that our commercial partners have thresholds that we have to meet. So I think we're good there. If we can do that, if we can't, I understand. And I just appreciate your review. Thanks.
Have we decided what avenue?
I would look at the IDA hotel model. That's what I'd be willing to look at and support.
I mean, I tend to agree, if we're gonna consider a pilot of all that, that's probably the one that I would propose. Looking at the revised requests, I appreciate absolutely the effort that was put in. I still get very concerned about how low the percentages are for the first 6 to 8 years. Basically, the schedule as it's presented is not even paying as much taxes as the empty building.
No, that was addressed.
Okay,
Well, it's $3,000 less.
Yeah.
But,
really?
But we fixed that. Josh?
no.
Well,
But,
but it's a very, very low percentage for the first 6 years. And then, a pretty sizable jump, and then at the end of the year, it's still only at 75%, which means there's gonna be another big jump there. So, one of my things that I've said multiple times is I'm always concerned about the growth, because to me, you've got, as a business organization, you've got to be able to maintain that continuity after the pilot goes away. Otherwise, it's just,
And it's a trendy business, right? In terms of, tourism and everything, it's in the business trendy. I mean, it could drop off during that time of the increase.
so. I mean, almost everything is economic based at this point, and hotels are certainly no exception to that, but so are a lot of other businesses, so. We certainly don't control the economy here in our fine land.
well, Chris, if there's, I guess the first question is if there's a consensus to consider a resolution Did they?
Would you like to walk through that resolution first and then you can consider the seeker resolution and then we'll have a particular project in front of you? Does that make sense? Just as an exercise, can we walk through that resolution and we'll plug numbers in?
Secret resolution first?
Could we walk through the authorizing resolution without a formal motion? And we can
Sure.
identify the numbers that would go into that draft resolution, and then we can do the motion on seeker and then consider the motion on amending the resolution and then approving the resolution. Does that make sense? Then I can at least have, the document in front of you that is complete. So I think the language in the resolution, if I may, Mr. Chair, the language in the resolution, again, with your permission, describes the project in the same way as the public hearing in terms of the conversion of the project to guest rooms and so forth for the hotel use. And identifies the different types of financial assistance that we propose. This would be a typical IDA acquisition of a lease for, nominally so that the IDA can grant the exemptions. And so, as discussed by Mike, the materials cost is estimated at the 21.8 million, and that's the basis for the sales tax exemption estimates. The mortgage amount maximum is the 24 million, and that is the basis for the 300 maximum mortgage tax exemption amount. And then the sales tax exemption is this 1.75 million. So those numbers are consistent with what Mike went through for each project, and those will then be reflected in the documents that will memorialize this resolution. The uniform project agreement will state those numbers. And then the whereases recite the public hearing process the board went through and the announcements and notifications of the consideration of the application. This resolution recites the consideration of seeker. And so that resolution will have to be considered before this resolution is adopted. Then the resolution discusses the review of the financial assistance analysis and the updated analysis that CEDC, as the board's administrator, has provided. And then taking into account this identifies all the various types of agreements we enter into: the company lease, the lease, an agent agreement, which is for the sales tax, and the project agreement and pilot agreement, which are the implementing documents for the agency to grant the assistance that we've been talking about. So then the authorizing part of the resolution, I'm now at page 3, discusses the nature of the project, the nature of the city, the need for the project. So it identifies the 20 additional FTEs. And then in item D, this is where we need to fill in some numbers. So in item D, looking at Mike's chart, we are looking at the hotel model. The estimated value of the exemptions from the data sheet for that would be the one. This is the total exemption would be the 2.507288 in that line item. So that would be the 1.75 and the 300 and the 1 million. Pardon me, I'm looking at my numbers here. Estimated property tax nominal. Mike, I'm looking at the number at the bottom, and that should be 1105027, right?
Yes.
Okay. For the real property taxes. And then, so the total then is the that number isn't right. So it's gonna be the, because I think that, the 455 number. Oh, that's the taxes.
That's the exemption.
That's the real tax exemption.
Okay, so that's the exemption number.
Exemption is
Um,
project with no pilot versus the,
In the summary, the column, I'm looking at the HIDA hotel model.
Yeah.
And so the number for real property tax exemption on that is 455,931.
okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure that's apples and oranges. So Mike, the 455,931 is the,
appropriate exemption number for real property tax.
using the 2% factor.
What do you want to use, nominal or present value?
Well, I think the other, I just want to be consistent. So if the 455 is correct, then that is the 2,507,000 number.
No, it's the 1,560,958 with no pilot versus the present value 1,105,027.
No, I mean, I'm looking at net estimated exemptions, Mike, in item C on your first page data sheet.
507 is the total exemption.
The total exemption is 2,507.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, comprised of the following exemptions, right?
Right.
So the
Okay.
inner blanks, 2,507, 288, and 455, 931, right?
Correct.
Okay. And then in this model, we have a 10-year exemption. And I will just note that in the applicant's request, the most recent request, they also requested our standard IDA model is to have full taxes on the property until the property is complete, because the IDA doesn't provide the assistance until the property that they have, the project that they have, authorized, is actually complete. So during the construction period, their full taxes, and that's based on whatever the assessment is at the time. It's lagging, so it's what actual taxes would be, and then the IDA exemption actually kicks in at the taxable status following the completion date. So the applicant requested consideration of no change in the taxes from the undeveloped current assessment, so that they would have an additional essentially 3-year period when then they would be getting exemption. So I just want to have clarity from the IDA. If we're considering the hotel model, that would be full taxes during the construction period. Is that correct from the board's perspective?
It would be consistent with the board's policy.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so that would be then the blank in E would be in year 10. So it would be first year to 10th year exemption, but it would start after the construction period. And the IDA policy is a 36-month maximum construction period. So the completion in this case is expected to be shorter than that. But so that the exemption would kick in then once that is completed, whenever it's completed, with a maximum of 3 years to get complete. All right. So then in F, you have the 46 million in private sector investment. That doesn't change. And the completion is based on the application projection when it's projected to be completed. Okay. So then we get to H in this page 6. Now, yes.
Hold on.
Yes.
We had a 10-year model, didn't we? That's how we got to those numbers.
Cause I thought we were doing the graduate, I thought we weren't doing that.
Well, this is our standard model.
Right.
50-50, 40-40.
Right, yeah.
So it goes up,
Oh, yeah, the full term.
Yeah.
Is 10 years.
Yeah.
But I'm saying it's not an it's
No.
not like no
No.
payment.
No. Yeah. It's not.
Okay.
good clarification.
So Chris, can I just ask a question on G? Because I know we've had issues with this before, so if they complete in August 27, that means they wouldn't be changed to their completion, their what am I trying to say, non-taxable status on the assessment roll would not happen until the March 2028 assessment roll, right?
No,
Yes. No, I think Heather's right because you can't change the tax status in the middle. Well, let me put it this way. You can change it in the construction period. So in the initial period, right, the taxable status date, if, the earliest you could make a property exempt is based on, it would be, if you did it today, it would be, you know, I guess for the school taxes, right? Because you have to wait until after the March taxable status date and then, the first taxes after that. But the way so technically this project is supposed to go exempt then on the next tax roll, right? So if it's exempt on the next tax roll, because you file you file the exemption form, right? If it closed, before March, you file the exemption roll, and then you are exempt after that, then technically you can start your pilot payment at that point. Your pilot payment is supposed to be then based on full taxes. So the IDA can then implement, because it's a matter of, the IDA's pilot agreement as opposed to what the taxable status dates are, you could implement that in January. And that would be what you would normally do. The first tax payment that would be due after the completion of the construction. Does that make sense? So it's different in the beginning than it is after you've already put the property exempt, for tax roll purposes, right?
the issue becomes, you're, when you're paying at the full tax before the completion date, it is pursuant to a pilot.
Right,
And it's
exactly. Right, exactly. And that's within the IDA's control, right?
Gotta figure it
so
out.
basically,
But here's the issue. The issue is, in that last gap, the assessor in previous projects has put on partial assessments. So,
Okay, but that's not correct, right? That's not correct, right? The IDA's exemption is a complete exemption, and then the pilot payments are then pursuant to the IDA contract. So the exemption should go on in the first taxable status date after the IDA closing, right?
but if that assessment is $2 million and
Right,
their construction, and they have a third of the building up at the next taxable status date, and it's a
Right.
3-year period.
right,
And there's an increase, and the assessment, even though it's on the tax exempt roll, goes up, the tax during that time period would be based on the assessment that has been increased by the partial construction.
that's correct. That's correct. I mean, that's
And
the way
that's
the IDA's policy procedures work.
For 3 years at the current level.
Do you think the assessment would go up until the building is habitable?
The Galvin Housing Project has a $5 million assessment on it, and it didn't open until last week or last month.
Right.
So the pilot kicks in January 1 on the pilot schedule, but they're gonna have to pay school tax based on a half a year at the $5 million assessed value. So I think the question on the table is, do you move forward with the policy as we just walked through, or at the request that they've made, which Chris points out, would be to lock in the first 3 years at the $1.6 million escalated at 2% assessment from 2%.
I think, given that the projected completion date, they're not projecting a 3-year period to do the completion, so you wouldn't want to lock it in for
No,
3 years.
no, once the completion date hits, it goes right to the schedule.
So it would just be, if you locked it in, it would just be if something unforeseen happened and they
Right,
needed to extend their construction for another 6 months or something like that.
And it's done
But
before, it's just an
It's
adjustment.
not to exceed rather than locking it in.
Correct.
And Mike, the pilot schedule for the hotel deals, and I know you just went through those. Those are based on percentage or they're based on flat numbers that are derived from a percentage.
Fixed number derived from the percentage.
So that we want to make clear when we get to that schedule that that's what is being proposed as the model. So then the
Yes,
next, right, okay, so then let's just keep going. So are we okay so far? And then we're going to go to H, board. Okay, so let me get back to Mike's numbers here. So in H here, we have cost benefit analysis. The project is suspected to provide. And Mike, I'm looking at the impact summary of 2.59. Is that the number that you're proposing to use there? Dollars? I'm looking at,
Yeah. Sure.
right?
Well, do you want the,
I think that's the number you've used in the past, right?
Why is it not 1.9?
for the overall cost, it should be 1.97 for the total project.
Oh,
We were,
okay, you're just looking at, all right, so the numbers on the other impact summary are taking into account some of the other offsite.
well, if you look at the
Yeah, I
document.
see. Okay, I see that what you're looking at, 1.97. No, but that's, so 1.97, that's the dollar amount you're using apples to apples?
Yes, that's the dollar amount for all of the benefits, all of the municipality taxing jurisdictions. It's
Okay.
8 to 1 city, but
Well,
Okay.
what's the six?
sorry,
What's the 6.33 on this sheet?
on this, that's the score they get.
Excuse me?
Oh, that's their score, you know how we put that rubric together to judge a
Oh, yes,
project?
yes, okay,
That's what
sorry,
that
sorry,
is.
yeah.
sorry, okay, but yeah, 1.97.
Yeah, okay. So,
Hey, Mike, are
Okay.
you doing?
So those are, sorry,
that's what they're doing.
Is that's been set in stone?
I don't know, you have to check with the board.
That's the route we're going, is the hotel model?
That's my information.
I mean. Randall and I have both recommended that, but the rest of the board has to chime in.
There's one other, I've made this point in the past, I'm gonna make it one more time, just because well, I'm not the owner. I would like to do the project because I would like to do the work. I do like the building, I spent a lot of time there. I think it's a worthwhile building to save. Our numbers, why they might have seemed crazy on the first draft. It's based upon an unprecedented increase in construction costs that hasn't been seen before, right? This thing was budgeted like $18 million for a much bigger project. We're at $26 million now for the project that's before you. And that's not reflected in our models. We ran this model with our first application to Mike at like, I think $24 million in hard costs. We're at our best bids right now from Baxter and D-Simone Construction are in the 26s. I believe our mortgage tax abatement is based on like $8 million in mortgage. That's just not gonna do it, right? We're
You're 13,600,000.
13.6, right? It's two different loans. Our $46 million overall budget is now, even just on the hard costs, is really gonna be 48. Unless we pare back the project even further, which would take more time, which means we don't start in 26. I'm not trying to sway you. Again, I am not the owner of this project. I'm just telling you that as aggressive as this ask may have seemed, it is not as aggressive as it could have been if we updated to the new numbers. And I don't foresee an improvement in the construction costs. I don't see it on the horizon.
So Bill, are you saying that absent our approval of the ask that you submitted, that this project probably won't go forward?
I can't say that because I don't know what the owners are thinking. I'm telling you that I've run a model for them. Josh, who's on the call, is our chief financial officer. He's run a model and $1 million a key, $1 million a room conservatively at this point at $300 to $600 a room, fee a night, 40 rooms. I would do it. I'm just saying, I'm construction, not finance, but
I'll just jump in for a quick second, and everything Jerry has just articulated is on point here. We tried to make this as tight as humanly possible for this project to move forward based on our conversations with ownership. There really is no more room here. And we're not saying that in order to get this approved. We understand the IDA has a job to do. We really want this project to move forward. We do believe it's beneficial for the city. We believe it's beneficial for ownership. And again, we'll see it's up to the IDA in terms of what you want to do. But I just wanted to stress there really is no additional room here from the ownership perspective.
I tend to lean toward a hotel model too, so where are we at then?
Then we're not gonna do the project, it sounds like, if we go to the hotel model. I mean, just to get clarity on the table here, I heard what Bill said, and.
Sure.
Or Jerry, I'm sorry, that, going back to the lenders, and they have lending in place now with a certain, but if it gets any tighter, the construction costs, lending, everything else, that, we're gonna have the historic Elks, and I know it's old, but I'd say it's historic, because I was married the first time there 41 years ago this month, so there is some history to it. But I get that.
How was the food? No.
that was
$6.50 a plate.
that was considered by the Park Service for the putting it on the National Historic Register.
Those walls could talk.
Well, I think in my opinion, I mean, the costs are high any place that you do this project, not just here.
I agree.
And you've done projects in very, very expensive places. And I'm assuming that those prices were either comparable or higher than what you're attempting to do here. And I think the city's position is perfectly reasonable and in line with what we're doing. And if that, for me, if it doesn't work, then I'm personally not willing to acquiesce to what you initially put on the table. That's my opinion.
So Randall, you're saying you don't want Hudson listed with Steamboat Springs and Telluride and other,
I want it where it would benefit the city. At the best level.
The benefit to the city only happens if it happens. If you have a hotel. Otherwise, you have 620 Union all over it.
I mean, the other observation I will make is when they were first here, we asked them and they did not require a pilot for any of the other properties that they have developed in other quite nice places. And this is the owner I'm talking about, not developer. So part of me wonders, I know part of it is because of the building and the fact that it was in worse shape than they thought, but if they can create, 5 or 6 other high-end properties in other, high income places without the benefit of a pilot.
The one thing I'll clarify though is all of their other projects, and this is not me, though. The stuff that I do for very wealthy clients in different places, they have different financial needs. I'm speaking specifically to this client in this building. All of their other projects, they buy existing hotels and convert them to their use or their style. This is a mansion. It's not a hotel. It's going to take upwards of $2 million just to get it safe. And then it's not a perfect use, even at that point. So this is where the difference is for them, is where they miscalculated. Is the adaptive reuse of the historic structure is imminently more expensive than buying an existing hotel and doing wallpaper paint.
I feel like your clients have the resources, the city has needs. And I
Which
think that,
this project will help with, right? I
but
think-
not as much as it could.
But it only can help if it happens. I don't know how to put that forth any.
But you guys are not also the only game in town as well. As I mentioned, other people may want better problems.
Up to them.
No, I understand what I'm saying. If they don't do it, it's not like somebody might not do anything.
How long has it been vacant? 20 years? I mean, when's it?
No. I did a project in there, like the community, it was the.
Well, my point is, right,
The facility's been used up until 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago.
and if somebody's putting $46 million at risk, they have to have a reasonable expectation of a profit, but you can only hit a 5 iron so far, and if this is what they need for their lenders to get the project done, it seems to me the bird in hand.
I'm just expressing my opinion.
I mean, again, I've run the numbers here. The returns on this project are not typical equity investment level returns, even with the pilot that's in place. They were with the 20-year abatement, but we understand that's not doable. But with this revised proposal, it's not even your typical equity level return, but ownership is willing to move forward with it. The other thing I would say is, I think it's a misconception to believe that another developer is going to come here with better construction numbers and is going to be willing to move forward with these level of returns. Not to mention the fact that if this does not move forward now, I think Mike said it earlier, you're looking at multiple year process of disposing of this property to a new developer for them to go through the approval process, to them get financing, come back to the IDA, and most likely be asking for either the same level of abatement or higher. I don't to say like this is not the only game in town is not accurate, because I don't believe you're going to find another developer who's willing to do it for this level of abatement.
And again, my financial interest in this thing is only as an employee, right? This is a project for me. I don't have financial interest in the land. Had planning department not taken 2 years to approve this, the construction costs would have been in a different realm. They probably would have gotten started prior to this crazy escalation in construction costs. So the next guy who comes along, if they see that this is a difficult planning board and that getting anything approved that makes more financial sense is going to take 2 to 3 years.
Well, I take umbrage at that because I was on the planning board and it didn't take longer than it should have. A lot of stuff, and even now, there are things that you haven't completed at the planning board, even at this point.
What would that be?
I think you should contact Teresa. There are things right now that are still left out there that you haven't come back because you don't have stamp plans. The approval, you have a conditional approval, but not stamp plans. And I believe that we did our due diligence, and I think that we followed the process through as it should have been followed through, in my opinion. So I have an issue with that.
So where does the board want to go from here?
I gotta go.
I do too.
You could vote on each one of them and see if you get a consensus. What do you say, Chris?
Those actions are up to the board.
Right, but is that the process they would go through? Introduce a motion?
We're gonna have one, we're gonna need to have one motion at a time, so you know, it is up to the board what motion they want to consider. So does the board wish to continue marking up the resolution using the hotel model just as a starting point, and then, or what does the board wish to do? We were partway through marking up the resolution.
Or can they, or would it be appropriate for them to indicate whether they would be willing to support a motion before they vote on it?
I mean, I think at this point, there's no point in going through the resolution if got people on completely different sides. I mean, we might as well find out if we're gonna have consensus on any one of these models, right?
Right.
I put forth a motion to consider model A, the hotel model.
Well, I think it would probably be better to have everyone indicate which model it's for. Rather, because if you do.
Okay,
If you
yeah,
do
yeah,
it
you're
that way, like, let's have a conversation and say. What model this person's for. Okay. That makes sense. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Is it okay to do it that way?
Yes, Mr. Chair and Mr. Randall, does Mr. Randall wish to then withdraw the motion for discussion purposes?
Yes, in favor of historical.
Okay,
So I'm the hotel model.
So do you want to start, Mr. Chairman, with the developer's proposal?
I mean,
Or just go around and ask people which one they want?
Yeah,
that's what I know.
Ask people what they did.
Yeah, I'll vote for the hotel or, the IDA model, but I would also vote for the submitter model, because that's
Okay,
really the only motion we have that's realistic, it sounds like.
Well, there's a
We
third
can
one.
go through the motions we
Yeah, there's a third one.
There's a third one, yeah.
Which basically, if you look
just
at
splits
this
the
one,
middle.
it kind of splits the difference between the IDA model and the mansion model. So, I mean, I would like to see this project done. I think it will add value. I think it's a good use of the property. I think the city can use some lodging tax money. I would prefer it to be the HIDA hotel model just for the sake of consistency, but I'm not opposed to the alternative. I'm not as comfortable even hearing the issues with the finance. I'm still not as comfortable with the revised request from the developer, but I would be willing to consider the third alternative.
I'm with, I would be with that.
You guys?
yeah, there's-
Have talk.
Yeah, well, I'm actually just not in favor of doing a pilot. I get all of the arguments. And the possible benefits and so forth, but I am not in favor of pilot project.
Any project, any pilot.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well,
Dominic, call.
No,
I-
let me amend that and say, I'm not in favor of pilots when the benefit, the 400, close to $500,000 benefit is coming to an IDA where there is no indication of how that money will benefit the city. I don't see it.
But there are many options, and just because we have
There are
a
many
doesn't mean that they're not options.
There are many options, none of which, have even been discussed in respect.
Sure.
That's fair.
Dominic,
So
I get some water.
okay, Chris, could you get a couple more water? Yes.
I agree that, in terms of the use of the property, right, it's only gonna benefit the use as we move forward, but it's only gonna get worse, right? And anyone that's come in after that, the money's gonna just get more and more. So they're gonna ask for something even more extravagant in 3 or 5 years, right? So, but I like the hotel model because of it's the direction, it's kind of the box. But I also like the compromise, right? With the third option. So, because it kind of goes halfway down, right? So it becomes the balance. What would work to make this happen with it being reasonable within, so many years, right? So I don't want to kick a can down the road, but I also want to ensure that the benefits are going to be there for the city. And I think as the IDA moving forward, the feet's got to be put to the fire to work on that money, right, in the pot to benefit the city. I mean, it only can benefit the city if we ask and we work that project through or we work it. So we can't say it's not going to benefit the city if we haven't asked or we haven't made proposals to the IDA for a project. So I would support the prioritize the hotel model, but I have no problem if it's agreed with the board to go to and three C. Does that make sense?
I'm also not in favor of the pilot.
I'm in favor of a hotel.
So that's one, two, three that would go with HIDA plan and four. Oh, yeah,
So we bring it to a vote.
Bring to a vote.
Are we voting on the HIDA mods? Well, I'll do it a couple different ways. Then I make a motion that we, consider plan A, which is the HIDA plan, or plan C, and choose between those two. So we don't have a motion, I'm sorry, it's a straw poll.
Well, how does that make a choice? Because if we go to the HIDA plan, right, we know that it's not gonna quote. Right? So.
Okay, so we'll just pare down to plan C then. Plan three, or was. Plan C.
And Chris, we can plug those numbers in based on the chart, the way we just did.
We're going to walk through it again with the board, so that we have the right numbers in front of the board if they're going to vote on something. I understand, Mr. Chairman, you have now a resolution. I'm not quite sure I understand the motion.
Well, I would, motion to make it plan three. The plan.
Okay.
The alternative model. The alternative model, yeah.
Okay, so you would like to walk through the resolution then with the alternative three. So we're going to go backwards through the resolution. Mr. Chairman, is that acceptable? Okay.
We have to quickly, because people are gonna lose.
I understand, and I have signatures from some of the board members that we need for another project. So we're going to go back to page pardon me, page 5.
I've been our document.
Let's see. Yes, page 5, where we're now going to look again at item D, and we're going to go back to Mike's model. Pardon me, I just need to go back to Mike's model. So now we are at the line item that says we have 6
682.
682 682 564, and then the total being, instead of 2507, 2733 920.
Yep.
Okay, as the exemption. Okay. And then let's see, the pilot agreement is still 10 years. So for the alternative, Mike, the alternative is based on the IDA's policy, right? So it's still 10 years, and the property taxes are payable based on actual until the completion of construction. Is that correct?
And then
The ratio is
and then the
$1.64.
and then the fixed payment schedule.
Right.
Would go
Okay. And then then the cost benefit for that one based on the CBA comparison is 1.64. Yes. Okay. Thank you, Margaret. And then we need then to proceed to the Exhibit A, and I will walk through the changes there. Give me 1 second because I need to paste in the different data sheet from that. And see if I can do it without messing up my structure here. Okay. So we're now going to is that going to be just 1 second. Let me just insert. Okay, so we're inserting a payment starting with the 43 and ending with the 197,
That's correct.
295, right? Okay.
That's correct.
So what we're now going to say so if you look at Exhibit A, the first part is the same. The pilot schedule now says, number 1, 10-year pilot agreement with pilot payments as follows. Year 1 through 10, is gonna be that 43 to the 197. So we're getting rid of the percentages because this isn't a percentage based, it's gonna be fixed, okay? And then it will say year 11, 100% of assessed value / actual tax rates. And then the language in the pilot term is for years, first and last pilots for 1 year, that should say 11 because it'd be partial years, right? Sometimes we'll have a partial year, half and half. And then the base period is going to be the same, and the recapture is going to be the same. And we have blanks in the recapture period, which will now just fill in with 10% a year because it's a 10-year schedule. So from the dated date until completion, it's 100%. And then the base year starts at, base period starts at 90% and then goes down to 0 at 10 years and thereafter. Okay. So that's and the employment stays the same. The employment commitments for hiring and so forth stay the same. So that is the resolution then that would be up for consideration. And Michael, I can email this to you if you would like to project it. Pardon me?
We have to do the secret resolution first.
Yes, we do, but I can email it to, if you want to get it in front of you, you know what I mean? I can email it to you now.
The process, so we weren't part of the process. We didn't know they were gonna do like that. It was so long
Yeah,
ago.
so if I can go to Mr. Chairman, if I could go to the discussion of the seeker resolution, which the board would have to take up before they take up the approval resolution. The seeker resolution is in your packet, and the seeker was considered by the other board, but the IDA at the time was not identified as an involved agency. So the IDA is reviewing the information. This is what was in the available information, reviewing the information that was considered by the other board, but the IDA would be making its own decision as to whether the project constitutes, is appropriate for a negative declaration. And so if we could just for a minute, the board had this in front of it in its packet, but if you look at because this was part of the application, if you look at the part 1, 2, and 3, the board needs to look at that in order to make this determination. So the seeker part 1 reviews the project application and the expected impacts. The seeker part 2, this is a short form, goes through the impact assessment. And I think that you're taking into account in making your decisions about this, the findings that the planning board had previously made in terms of the projected, for example, historic preservation aspects of the project and so forth in reviewing the draft answers to these questions, right? So this is a draft for the board, and then the draft of the determination of significance would be that the project would not result in significant impacts. SHPO correspondence indicated the project would not result in impact to historical resources, and stormwater is being treated on site. And again, those are pursuant to the planning board's previous reviews and requirements with respect to the projects. So that resolution is the seeker resolution, the neg deck resolution for your consideration.
Voting.
Introduce that motion.
Yeah, I make a motion that the idea get the the seeker portion of the application be approved.
But we have to introduce them and we vote on.
All right, the motion.
Okay,
You just get it.
I second.
All right, we're gonna need a roll call.
Hold on. Can I find something? Heather Campbell?
Aye.
Mal Johnson?
Aye.
Joe Castellica absent. Randall Martin?
Aye.
Dominic Moranti?
Aye.
Charles Millar?
Aye.
Margaret Morris?
Right.
Margaret Morris. 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 Margaret In favor?
Alright, so the second resolution would be to vote for plan, the alternative plan.
The resolution, right, as we just walked through it for the alternative plan, correct?
Chriselle just described it.
Wait a second,
I'll second.
Randall made a motion.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Heather, thank you.
Now we need a roll call vote.
Sure. Heather Campbell,
Aye.
Paul Johnson,
Nay.
Cheryl's absent. Randall Martin,
Aye.
Dominic Moranti.
Aye.
Charles Millar,
Aye.
Margaret Morris.
No.
Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 ayes, 2 nays, 1 absent.
There are 4, yes.
Yeah, these 3, 4, yeah. Yeah. No, I said 4 yeses, 2 noes, and 1 absent.
All right. We'll now open it up to public comment.
I guess that would be me and Lloyd Alden Kennis. I appreciate your amending the proposal and thank you very much because, certainly Hudson is a growing and prosperous community and I expect you'll do very well here. And appreciate your contributions that you're looking to bring here in due diligence and work in regard for the people.
Margaret, can I just interrupt? Margaret has to leave, and I just want to personally, and on behalf of EDC, thank Margaret,
Yeah.
the mayor, and Randall for your service on the IDA, your cooperation and courage in working with me and Chris, and we're going to miss you.
Oh, no, you're not.
And Margaret, can I just say, Margaret, before you walk out, could you please see Cheyenne for a couple of documents that you have to sign?
But I did want to thank you, and I apologize, Lloyd, for interrupting that, but.
That's fair. I'm in for it.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Margaret. Well,
Hold on,
Can you hold on for 1 second?
We have to make a vote on the finance invoices.
oh,
We need the full board to approve the invoices that were approved in the finance.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
I make a motion. To approve the full.
I'll second. I don't know if I can, it's not my thing, but yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Can I make a motion to, can we dismiss? Can we?
and
I
I
make a
finished.
motion. Oh,
Public
sorry.
comments.
Thank you. Brandon, good job. So, again, I'm sorry, just to reacquaint myself with my train of thought here. And, I would suggest and recommend to the developer that they could, come up with some opportunities to benefit the city in terms of community service or in some alternate way in which they, allow, participate in, I'm sure it's not just hotel rooms that you're gonna serve the high end, right, people, but there might be amenities that you could provide to the city or some sort of support or assistance. Just as a suggestion, because I know we all want to work together in a cooperative vein. And so again, I appreciate your conciliation and willingness and wanting to do this project. Still, I'm just gonna cut it off real quick, okay? I'm very concise, so I'm probably your voice of reason here. So again, my train of thought, I cut it. I'm sorry.
Thank
Sorry.
you.
I'm not done, I'm trying to figure, I'm losing my.
Why don't you talk to the developer independently?
Well, no, that's to the board too. Come on, can I just try and finish my train of thought without being interrupted? You know?
I interrupted.
Well, I had a whole thing, there was another aspect to this that I wanted to bring out,
Why?
because I'm a concerned citizen. I'm a concerned citizen. And I don't appreciate being, my family, I appreciate being like, rushed out.
I'll make a
Not
motion
being
to
able make
adjourn.
a comment. And I
All
want
in
to
favor?
finish up and I want to go
Yeah,
get
we don't got
on record that I was not allowed to finish my comment. All right, I want that in the record that I was not allowed to finish making my comments due to time and
Mike,
Thank you,
Mr. Mayor, needs to sign documents.
Yes, they're going to sign documents. Do our meeting in January and start over.
Yeah,
But this group is done.
So-
I mean, they don't know that.
We love it. We don't have to keep it a good work.
Oh, my goodness.